Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Max Runs 30 podcast where there is no overtime. As usual, I'm joined by Koi from MTU Esports, Jeff from Dust2 US, and me, I cast or something. And in 30 minutes, we'll be covering all of this week's North American CSGO content. We are very late with this episode. We are really bad at not being busy, so yeah, we've been a little busy, but we're finally getting this episode out and we got a lot to talk about. So I'm gonna hit the button on the timer and we're gonna begin our episode. So to start things off, we're gonna kind of touch on the Phoenix series. So the one thing I'll kind of preface this with
can you tell our lovely viewers what the Phoenix series is? Because I'm sure like
that's
85
exactly what
of
I was
the
about
100
to
viewers
do.
don't know what that is, so that'd probably be a good place to start.
Yep, that was exactly what I was about to do. With the Phoenix series, it is a tournament run by Community Gaming, and it's basically kind of like a cash cup, except the idea is that there's $2,500 in cash, and the other half is in coin of some sort of coin. I don't
Money
quite remember.
Coin.
Probably. So yeah, so the idea is that half of the prize pool is in some sort of crypto and the other is in actual money. So it's about $2,500 plus $2,500 of whatever else, and it's run basically like a cash cup, 2-day tournament, something along those lines. Pretty basic, and it went apparently pretty good at first, but then you get into the later stages of the tournament where things just went fucking haywire. So we've been hearing a lot from different sources that there's a lot of people pissed. Teams are pissed, talent and production are pissed, and it's just kind of all comes down to some really questionable admin work. It's not anything on the level of like Epic League, but it's just kind of basic incompetency.
It's garden variety incompetence. It's just your incompetence, yeah. Because
out of all of this, basically, we received like a lot of information, like a paste bin of like all of the text conversation that like went on between the two teams that were trying to reschedule. Because basically what happened is Valkyrie made it to the grand finals versus
Recon 5
Recon 5, and they they had a league match scheduled, and they ended up trying to, and like basically the timing worked out where basically the second map went to some giga overtime.
It went to like quadruple, yeah. It was like 31-28 or whatever.
So then Valkyrie's basically like, yo, we have a league match to go to, and then it was kind of a mixture of that and production being like, hold on, we didn't get a break between like they got like, I don't know, like a 5-minute break between like the maps or something like that. And it comes down to the end, like just like they basically were like saying we need to reschedule map 3, but it was like last minute. And some of the conversations that were happening in there are just, I don't even know where to start with it.
Mind-blowingly incompetent.
Well, because remember, the problem is it's not like the issue always is that teams should never be making decisions about the matches they play. Right. Teams are supposed to just show up and play the matches. Admin should always be the ones making the decisions. So, you know, the admin team should be like, oh, well, Valkyrie let us know in advance they have a league match to play, and it's our fault for, you know, production going long and the match is going really long. So we'll agree to reschedule it. It shouldn't be Valkyrie's like, hey, can we reschedule the third map in your grand finals? And the admins are just like, yeah, sure, sound. Like, it's and like the same, if you're trying to like run like a broadcast, you can't just like blue balls the entire broadcast by being like, oh, after a quadruple overtime, super intense event, see you guys at an indeterminate time in the future. Like, that's not how this works.
By the way, that third map was played off broadcast. That was not like they did a good enough job at pissing off their production people that happened off broadcast.
Well, the third map was forfeited.
Was it okay, I might be remembering something wrong. I think I'm remembering the third place decider was also a forfeit. Oh Lord. Okay.
Yeah, because the Recon 5 players were like, what the fuck do you mean? Like, yeah. They're like, are you going to ask our opinion? And the admins were like, nah, not really. And it's like, well, you can't just like, they're like, well, we would like to win the event, please. And they're like, well, no, we're rescheduling. And you can't just have like one team be like reschedule, another team be like, well, no, we don't accept, you know, we're not going to gentlemen reschedule because we have shit to do in our lives. Like,
yeah, and like I think even like we at one point like somebody was suggesting that like the prize pool be split or something. Like there was like a whole bunch of just like admins being super easy to push around. Like it just comes down to like if you're going to go into a tournament, if you have a league match, like and the schedules collide, you choose one or the other. You don't get the opportunity. Like it's like that's up to you on time management. And if you're just letting yourself get pushed around on that, like it's just silly.
I mean, adminning is like, that's ultimately one of the big problems with like, admins in general is that you can't just be a complete pushover. It's not like, it goes from the bottom of the top to the scene where, an admin's like, where a team's like, well, if you don't do what we want, we're just going to like leave the tournament. And I mean, at the end of the day, it's just an advanced team. So like, fuck it. Like, okay, if you don't play the match, you will be forfeited. And that, I'm sure somewhere in their rulebook, like their rulebook Google Doc, it says like, you have to play the match to completion unless both teams and the admin team agree. Cause like, that's not a way you're supposed to run a tournament.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like,
I think, oh man, what was I about to say before I went full robot mode there for a moment?
just keep talking. You sound fine.
Just keep
you
going. We can
Yeah.
hear you.
Yeah, I know, except I distracted myself through it now. It had to do with at the end of the day, it's like an advanced team, right? And Valkyrie have clearly demonstrated that they are leagues above most, if not almost all of the competition in advanced, at least for now. It doesn't really hurt them to forfeit an advanced game, right? Like, they have to still play playoffs. The playoff seeds, while it matters, it's not like the end of the world if you're down 1, right?
Right.
That's just my thoughts. Winning an event in a standard best of 3 fashion is way more important than just a single best of 1 league match.
Right.
And because there is some element with this tournament, right, where it's like you go to some like grand finals at the end of the year or whatever, where there's like a bigger prize pool, if I'm remembering correctly.
Yeah, it's like a 10K event or something
I think
that.
I think all the teams are locked in for the finals, like the entire top 8 is, but still, I mean, better seed for the grand finals is probably worth more than better seed in advanced playoffs.
Yeah, honestly, it's just like it's like a mixture of like weird decision making coming from the Valkyrie side of things, and then just the tournament organizer being a complete pushover in a lot of situations.
Yeah.
So that's probably the best summary you can take from it. And I'll update everybody as I hear if depending on how long it takes prizing to actually go out. So apparently they were good about the first event, so we'll see how the second event goes. But we'll kind of move on from there. So. To go on from the Phoenix Series catastrophe, we will touch on the Cash Cup. So this is the first summer Cash Cup, and at the
Weren't
end,
these 2 events running the same weekend also?
they were.
Yeah.
So
That's probably also a really good idea. It's like one event.
It was really. Go ahead.
Yeah, one event offers infinitely more prestige, has more money, and has a better broadcast. So we were like, yes, this will be the week where we compete with ESEA. Like, that's probably also a questionable decision there, honestly.
It was really funny because like when I had actually like checked the whole Cash Cup and like who was playing and everything, I was like, wow, this is about to be one of the most stacked Cash Cups that we've seen in a really long time, because it was basically all of Premier in there, as well as a bunch of really capable advanced teams, and it looked like it was going to shape up to be really good. And then there were a ton of forfeits because most of like your lower Premier teams went over to the Phoenix one because they thought they could win it, and so it kind of hurt. It kind of was a feels bad that it kind of split the pool like that, but I mean, I don't think I would have predicted like a different Cash Cup winner, so it's not that big of a deal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but to kind of top that off as well, Bad News Bears did actually win their 4th Cash Cup as a team, so good on them. They did get their revenge over Godsent. So
and their first one was Sheikh Zula.
That is true. So. Honestly, that's a good showing from America's favorite team. But yeah, I don't know. I'm not necessarily opposed to having more tournaments in the space, especially if it's distributing more prize money across more teams, but I don't know. We'll just have to see. It also comes a little bit down to execution, because I remember we used to be flooded with like tier 3 tournaments. Like, I mean, Winners League was kind of tier 2, and then we had like Golden League, and we had like what Olympus and like EGL. Like, there's a lot of those a lot of those little small leagues that were distributing some kind of prize money to, you know, some of these lower teams and helping sustain things. And that's something that I think we see a lot more in Europe too. But the thing is with those is that they kind of all operated with this idea that like these tournaments were like, they had this idea where they were going to run their thing as like a proper league, right? So they were taking up crap tons of time, and you cannot do that with the way that ESEA takes your schedule. Like, it was just the business model behind those leagues was just poor. So,
well, and here's like another thing that shows you the difference between EU and NA is the reason all these tournaments need to be on the weekend is because players get like super baby rage if you hold a tournament during like the weekdays, you know? So like all of your events have to be shoved into the 52 weekends, because if you hold a tournament on, you know, let's say like a Wednesday, like a player will go on Twitter and be like, it's such fucking bullshit that my team can't play this because we're all 16 and we don't have, and we work at Wendy's. Like, I schedule off, and it's like, well, you play ESEA League on weekdays. I'm like, yeah, but I don't want to play more than one best of 3 a day. So like, fuck this shit, man. Like,
I mean, I don't. As someone that also works a day job, I definitely understand some of that sentiment. Like, there's definitely a difference between playing a singular league match and then also having to potentially play like 6 best of ones or something like that. Like, that would be awful to have on a back-to-back day, and that kind of just goes to show that in Europe, you know, you actually have a lot more, even at a tier 2, even a tier 3 level, you have like actual full-time players, and in NA it's just not possible to have that. And so it makes sense that it's not,
I mean, I guess, but if like one team has to sit out because they have work, like, it's not the end of the world. Like,
yeah, I'll agree with you there. Like, they don't really have the right to complain, just don't play it, Lamau. But
also, I really like the way you put that, where you said, like, as somebody who also has a day job in a call with 3 people who all have day jobs.
I'm a working class
I'm an average individual that has to come home and play.
I play an intermediate.
I get what you were saying there, but
intermediate, it's the summer of aimers. I'm just going to say that right now.
Summer,
beautiful.
The summer of aimers.
Well, okay, so to kind of put us back on track as far as the Cash Cup itself, RBG, they looked good in the Cash Cup. They beat the crap out of Party Astronauts, and they beat the crap out of Pain. And we'll touch on that later. We'll touch on that more, because there's a little bit more to that we're going to talk about. And Team 1 kind of flopped. I believe they made it all the way to Godsend.
Well, they had the high seed invite, but then they just looked sort of flat against Godsend.
Yeah, they just looked not great. So that's kind of the summary for the Cash Cup. I mean, Koi made it to top 8 with his team, but then they had to dip because they had to dip because
them Koi boys,
one of his dudes couldn't show up. So it's
the iconic MTU match forfeit. Yeah.
No, hey, it's nothing MTU related.
It was the Michigan.
I'm very clearly trying to make it not attached to one university.
We are the Michigan Mittens Brigade. Yeah.
Exactly. You understand now.
We wear the mittens in this house.
All right. Well, okay. So we'll scoot on from the Cash Cup now, and we'll talk about roster changes. We have had a few over the course of this past week or so.
Some more relevant than others, yeah.
Yep. So the big ticket item, I'd have to say, well, okay, that's not true. We got a couple of big
item
tickets
in the realm of Premier.
In Premier is basically Seeker Club catching on fire.
Again.
With Wolfie, Vic, and Wolf all leaving, but Wolfie is like kind of not leaving. It's like, you know what's going on with this, Jeff. So I'll let you explain it.
So step 1, Wolfie goes back to Sweden, and Vic decides he wants to play Valorant. So those two are out of the team, but Wolf E, with like the E at the end of his name, is like, well, I'm committed to playing Premier. And then they add on Rise and Consti from Kinship in advance, and then like immediately afterwards, Wolfie with an E is like, well, I don't want to play anymore. And so then they have only 4 players, and so Wolfie with a Y says, oh, I'll just play from Sweden then. And so that's going to be their roster. So for like the second season in his like last 4 Premier seasons, Wolfie's just like, yeah, I'll play NA Premier from Sweden. It's fine with 130 ping.
Yeah.
No worries.
Which also to note quickly as well, Wolfie with an E has said on Twitter that he is looking for Valorant options. So I think we have lost another player, unfortunately. Just
what an
kinda
exciting,
sad.
what an incredible career trajectory. He left one of the most stable Premier teams to go to Secret Club, get fucking railed by a million roster changes, do good despite that, have incredible stats, and then say, nah, Valorant's fine.
Yeah, which they did just finish off 2-0ing Recon 5. So
And it was a pretty convincing 2-0 too. Like they looked good. They really did.
I don't know. Maybe there's a future for it.
I don't know how to feel about this team, right? Because the problem is the Secret Club we know and the Secret Club that now exists is fundamentally different because, I mean,
it's a new team, basically.
It's a new team. I mean, Wolfie's kind of back, but apparently they didn't know the roster lock was in effect, so they might try to find someone who can play from North America because, I mean, playing a best of 3 at like 4 a.m. is pretty fun, so, I'm sure Wolfie would like to avoid doing that for the rest of the season. But
have you met most gamers' like lifestyle?
I mean, I guess, right? But like,
they'll find a way.
But like, I'm sure now that he's back in Europe, he's gonna be trying to be like, like not live the NA pug to degen life. So like,
that's fair.
Mm-hmm. So that kind of covers the Secret Club changes. As far as next one we'll talk about, let's see here, Brian 2K out of PDHM. This is one of those moves that I feel like Jeff knows everything about.
Right. Yeah, I'll take this one. I'll field this one too because I added this one because it hasn't been reported
also,
yet.
Koi's coming back. We're just reconnecting him.
Give him a second. I haven't reported on it yet because I've been busy and because it's such a low priority. But basically, Brian said he just wasn't really enjoying playing with the team anymore, so he's out, and they're bringing Slash and Emmons. Slash played Premier it must have been like 6 seasons ago now with Just Swing, and then Emmons. He's a guy. He plays advanced sometimes. He exists. So now the team is Pow, Emmons, Slash, Turismo, and Pow, Turismo, Slash, Emmons, and I'm just gonna cheat real quick because
somebody else.
I've lost the fucking plot on this game. We've had so many roster changes. Jet, Turismo, Jet, Turismo, Pow, Slash, and Emmons.
Okay.
There was no repeats there, right?
I don't think so.
So the important takeaway from this team is they're still like last place in their division, and they also now no longer have a single player from their advanced season, so it's fundamentally a different team, and it doesn't look good.
Yeah, I don't know how to feel about PDHM going forward.
There's a reason Slash hasn't been in Premier for like 5 seasons. He's fine enough, but like he's not like he was a bottom tier Premier player. And then Jet obviously doesn't really commit to Premier. Emmons is an advanced player. Turismo was a bottom tier Premier player. He's probably their best player though right now. And then the other guy, Pow is Pow is most known for playing with like the Choco Check people like back in the day. So do with that information what you will.
Yeah, I genuinely haven't watched any of their games at all.
Can't say that I have either.
Yeah.
I mean,
I casted like 1 or 2. I wasn't really impressed. I mean, they look good on Inferno when they play Inferno, but they still lose. So like, I don't know what to take from that.
I mean, for context, they haven't won a single map this season, so like, there's not really a whole lot to like write home about.
Yeah, their one win is because Velaz died. So yeah. So I guess we'll scoot on from that. Other news: SKDC go kaboom. They are gone. They have died.
Oh no. My God.
Can't say we didn't see that coming. Okay, sorry, Koi. What'd you say?
Dang.
Damn. Okay. Darn. Another real
How unfortunate.
Another banger. Gone too soon.
Yeah. Well, I don't have anything
Apparently,
more
the
to
whole
say
like
on
thing
that.
with this team, right, was that all the players were like, "We want to be good. We want to practice," but then all the players were like, "Can we practice?" And they're like, "No." No, our schedules won't allow it. So all the team basically just like, they're like, well, if you're not going to practice, I'm not going to play. Well, if you're not going to practice, I'm not going to play. If you're not going to practice, I'm going to go back to the gym. So like, so it just completely like collapsed based on that.
Yeah. Yep.
And So the SKDC name is dead, and it probably was dead a long time ago when Ocean left. So
Yeah.
unfortunate that now there's a bunch of destitute players, but I mean they were gonna have to make a bunch of roster changes anyways, and they haven't really impressed this season at all in any of their iterations.
Yeah, and so there's nothing more to say on that. Did
Yeah.
you already touch on Spice?
Spice also left PDHM. I completely forgot about that. That's where one of their other players went, which that kind of tells you what you need to know about how PDHM is doing. That they've replaced all 5 of their players from last season, and that one of their players would rather go down to Advanced than continue playing in Premier. So there's not. Yeah, this team is fucking dead. The team is dead in the water. And
did he leave himself, or was he kicked?
As far as I'm aware, Spice packed up his bags and said, "I'm going back to Advanced." So, that's don't take that as the gospel truth. But I mean, to be fair, you'd rather be on an Advanced team that's winning than a Premier team that's getting smashed. Because you can win some money in advance. You can get some more experience. The schedule's less of a pain in the ass. You're not constantly being broadcast, being schlattered. So yeah.
That's about it for that. So we do have some relatively big news, and they're actually kind of touching into tier 1 a little bit here. So Tacticus has gone to Furia as an assistant head coach. Now everybody was like, "Wow, he's going to help Junior," and then
Junior immediately benched.
Junior immediately gets benched. So they're stepping in with Honda, I believe, in the meantime. And man, I
drive a Honda.
I feel for Junior because he started to look really good in their last couple of games, but it still wasn't anything that would suggest it came down to Junior did not fit Furia's play style,
yeah.
I imagine you'll have more to say on this than me.
Yeah.
But
So the way that Furia plays, what Junior's sole role is to just be a roll opper, he just holds the angles and he just locks down a certain spot, and that's about it. In the past, Junior was a playmaker, and that's what his big thing was. And when you have someone like Art, that's sole existence is around making plays, that becomes redundant. So
you can't have an aggressive dynamic opper while you also have fucking Art being like a sneaky little rat going behind the lines. I don't think there's enough room for those two players at the same.
it was like a Western town where there wasn't enough room for the two of them,
Yeah, basically.
But
it was also in Brazil, so
Yeah, that's also true.
I think that with Tac involved, I think with Tac around, that I actually don't know if Junior's gone forever from Furia. I actually think that they might trial him again at some point, to see if Junior can progress into a more roll oppy kind of style. Because if anyone can do it, it's Tac, honestly. And if Tac turned Junior into the monster that he was on Triumph, I have hopes that he can kind of reverse.
I mean, because
change some of that.
Yeah, because the element here is that they put Honda back in. So let's say Honda shits the bed. What do? They can't really get a Brazilian player right now because the Brazilian buyouts are too high, and so they would either have to go pick up another NA player or bring Junior back in. I'm kind of thinking they might just bite the bullet and buy a Brazilian player, because they've kind of intimated that the whole language barrier and the culture clash was one of the reasons Junior stepped down. So, but I mean, there could be a way back in for him. And then one other thing about this move, because Jerry is still banned, or Jerry, however you want to pronounce it, is still banned from the majors for the next, I think, 5 majors. As long as Tacticus is on this team, they will likely be using him as their coach for the major. So, there's a decent chance we see him behind the team at PGL Stockholm, which is really exciting for him.
Hey, let's go.
I'm really excited for that. That's going to be, I think Furia is going to be fucking dangerous with Tacticus. So I'm really excited to see how that plays out.
I think they're not. Oh, okay.
Oh, what? Were you about to?
I was about
to be a hater.
I think they're not going to be that great because Art's going to have to primary op, and so.
I think if Honda can adjust. I mean, so Honda had the most infamous opening series of his life. Well, right. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying this team, Art has no problem, I think, I get what you're saying with the roles, but I think that there is a world in which they can be really dangerous with Honda, especially because, like Honda had a really infamous opening. He was young. He opened up, I think, that series with like 3 aces or something like that, but with like 60 ADR or something. So, depending on how he gets his experience, like he's already cemented his name in everybody's minds.
I think we know nothing about Honda because he was on the team for so long, and I don't think really anyone in North America was watching, Furia Academy's games. So like there's basically I think it's still complete question marks about what the team's going to look like with Honda as the true fifth.
Yeah. I'm just a Honda fanboy, so what can I say? All right. Well, we are on 5 minutes left. Last move was Switchy leaving Big Chillin'. Do we have any thoughts on that? Big Chillin's just kind of shifting some things around to try and find some success is kind of what it looks like to me.
Meh. I don't know if he did a whole lot. Haven't really looked this great. Don't have a whole lot to say.
Big Chillin' haven't been really a team you look at and you're like, wow, they're really improving tactically. You look at them and you're like, they kind of just look the same and have since they were in advanced. That's basically my take on it.
Yep.
Still love them to death though. Let's go boys, but
yeah. So
the boys.
All right. Well, we'll scoot on. So we're going to talk about ESEA Premier this last week and this week a little bit because we're late as hell on this. So we're going to kind of talk about what's going on right now. But to kind of sum up last week, Triumph 2-0 GGPR, Recon 5 2-1 to Big Chillin'. Big Chillin' actually looked pretty good in that series. I casted that one. Party Astronauts 2-0 Mythic, Pain 2-0 RBG. Which kind of sucks for RBG, but I don't know. Do we have any? I don't quite remember.
You guys seem to think to be of the opinion that they're looking kind of flat, right?
Yeah, they definitely look like they've stagnated a lot. And I'm not necessarily sure if that's because they just aren't adapting to the fact that everyone now knows how they play, or if that's because there's something like behind the scenes going on in that team.
So here's the thing, right? So when Wolfie left the team last season, he said it's because they stagnated, and now that you're in your opinion the team's stagnating again. So does that mean the core of the team is stagnated and they might need to consider, like, let's say they either don't make playoffs or they don't do very well in playoffs? Does that give you warning flags that they need to change something more structural in the team?
Yeah, but I don't think it's necessarily like I can't think of anyone that I'd want to change, the core of like Hexed Walko Wiz with, right?
Right.
Like I'm fine with those players. It's just they need to realize like what their situation is in the grand scheme of things tactically and things like that, and then adjust. They just need to update things a little bit, and I think they'll be fine.
Okay.
Yeah. Because if I fast forward a little bit, I'll finish up on week 5 a little bit, but like I just finished getting off of RBG versus Mythic, right? And RBG, they won 2-1 against Mythic. Now at first you're like, oh man, Mythic took a map off them. It looked like Mythic was going to win that series. Mythic looked really good against RBG, and RBG did not have a response. They were playing to Mythic's game. Like Mythic was bullying RBG throughout most of this series. Even on Mirage, it started out how you'd expect. Mythic gets a couple of rounds, but like you started to see little glimpses of RBG just getting kind of pushed around some rounds, and then you get into Vertigo, and they just completely could not control the A bomb site. Koi was bantering me in chat about it because I was like, why the hell are they not contesting ramp at all? Which he's like, retakes, which makes sense, but they used like no utility on ramp. Like,
you gotta win the retakes.
You have to do something to make him like at least uncomfortable.
All right, guys, we're not gonna play the pre-plant, and we're also not gonna play the post-plant. Like,
yeah, Mythic's throwing like one smoke and they have the bomb down. Like, you're not gonna win when T's have that much utility. Like, it's just not gonna work.
They just they literally.
There's a problem there.
Most of their setup was like 1 or 2 players towards the back of the A bomb site. Like, they were just playing one player in elevator most of the time. Like, it was just like I can get it if you can get the retake, but they just didn't. So
yeah.
God, they started to look like themselves a little bit into like the end of Overpass, but like it wasn't clean, and something's obviously kind of going up because they're inconsistent. So
Right.
we have 50 seconds left. What do you
So
want to say to Jeff?
let's do our match to catch, match to miss this week. So for my match to catch, this is gonna be week 7 because we're just gonna skip week 6. I'm looking at Team 1 versus RBG as two teams that are both kind of losing momentum, and I want to see which team takes the win because I think that's going to be critical for their playoff prospects. For my match to miss, I'm going to go with probably PHM versus Censored, two bottom rung teams that are, I think Censored wins comfortably because one of these teams is incredibly dysfunctional, the other isn't.
Yep.
Thoughts?
Okay, I'll go for my match to catch. We're gonna go a little bit long on time here, but I'm gonna say it. My match to catch. Honestly, I'm gonna say Triumph versus Recon 5. It's a little bit of an easy pick, but I think that the Triumph team that we have is pretty. They're still a pretty good team, and Recon 5 is still looking to prove themselves. I think so. I think that'll be my match to catch. I'm gonna just kind of go with Jeff on the match to miss. We won't tell you to miss 3 premier matches, but Koi.
Yeah.
Other way. There we go.
Yeah, I actually don't. I've been watching a lot of them. I actually don't have one that like I'd hardcore pinned down as the match to watch. So I'll just copy your guys's, I guess.
Okay.
All right.
Riding on the coattail, on the shoulders of giants. Yeah.
Yep. You know how it is with me.
Comes to the show, just stares off into space for 25 minutes, and yeah.
Jeez, getting called out. Jeez.
Still gives everyone the most valuable information.
Those kind of facts, though. All right. Well, thank you, everybody, for tuning in to the show tonight, or whenever the hell you're listening to this. This is coming out in the morning tomorrow, so whatever. Make sure to like, subscribe, all that shit. Leave comments. We like to be able to read like what you think about the show instead of just like looking at this blank space of, hey, nobody's left a comment yet. So leave comments. We like that. Also, we do have an audio version of this podcast, so please go listen to that. We are now hosting on Anchor, which puts it on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Breaker, Google Podcasts, Radio Public, and a basic RSS feed if you're Blake Ferrick. So
also, if you're one of the people who watches the show on YouTube but like doesn't comment or also isn't like a CSGO player or on Twitter, like please tell me about yourself. Like I don't understand. Like tell me more about yourself.
Who are
you? All right. Well, I think that'll wrap it up today for the show. Make sure to follow Twitter. Do whatever, go support the show. It helps us know, what we're doing good and what we're not doing good. So thank you, everybody, for tuning in. And this has been a belated episode of the Max Runs 30 podcast. We'll see you next time.
Goodbye.